Hi and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be wrapping up our series on cuDF, a CUDA accelerated Python package that really works the same way as Pandas. Think of it as Pandas for your GPU. In this video, we're going to pick up where we left off from the last video, which looked at mainly doing string data manipulation on the article field in our dataset from American Stories on Hugging Face, and we're going to focus now on a very core aspect of data science, which is analyzing what we call time series data and doing time series analysis on that data set. So we're going to be specifically looking now at the time field. Now we've learned how to manipulate the time field or the year field or the date field so that we can get it into proper time series data format. In this video, we're going to now start to use that format to start doing some time series analysis on our data set. And we're also going to be bringing in some of the things that we learned from previous videos. So extracting core things from our article field. So things like people, things like capitalized words, etc. And then using that information alongside our time series data to do some kind of NLP over time analysis. So if you want to learn all about this, then stick around for this video. We're going to be diving right in. I am very excited because this entire series is being done on this machine behind me. This is the Dell Workstation Precision 3680, and inside of it is a beast of a setup. It's got an RTX 5000 ADA from Nvidia. This is a GPU with 32 gigabytes of VRAM, which is more than enough to not only run inference with most of the models that I need, but also even fine-tune them, models like Qwen2VL. This is a massive GPU that not only allows me to leverage machine learning more easily, it also allows me to do things like what we're seeing in this series, load up large datasets, thanks to Nvidia's GPU accelerated Python packages like cuDF, cuGraph, and cuML. So thank you so much to Dell and Nvidia for really sponsoring this series and giving me this workstation. This workstation came installed with Ubuntu 24.04 and was very easy to set up. And I'm really excited about this because, as you all probably know, I'm a digital nomad. I travel full time. I can't bring a workstation like this with me everywhere I go, despite the fact that it has a very small footprint. That said, I'm going to be spinning this up as a workstation server that I can call from anywhere I'm at in the world. So for the next few months, while I'm in Argentina, I'll be able to access this GPU and keep on bringing you content from it for the next few months. So thanks again, Nvidia and Dell. All right, now that we're inside of our notebook, let's go ahead and start by using the load extension cuDF.pandas. Now remember from the last videos in this series, this allows us to use cuDF as if we're just using pandas with zero coding changes. That means that I can import pandas as PD like I normally would, even if I was using a CPU, and I can automatically load up data and work with it on my GPU. And we're going to go ahead and load up the same data set that we've been working with throughout this whole series, which is the American Stories, specifically from 1938 to 1945, a collection of newspaper articles. Now, if you haven't seen the third video in this series, or if you've forgotten about it, you can download the data by using this download.ipynb or notebook file in this repo. And if you want to go ahead and learn more about the dataset, please do check out video 3 in this series. And we're going to go ahead and load it up, and you'll notice that we've loaded this whole dataset in approximately half a second, and it's roughly 4 gigabytes of data. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at what GPU we're using to make sure everything's loaded up correctly. And as you can tell, we're using the Nvidia RTX 5000, and everything is loaded up nicely. And let's go ahead and take a look at our actual data set. And this is what it looks like when we use df.info, which simply tells us all the different types of data that we have in each of our columns. We can see here that it's 3.9 gigabytes. So this entire series, or this entire video, is on date time data or time series data. Now, as you can tell when we look at info here, none of our data is in time series format. And we know that because when we look at date here, we'll see that it's just an object. We're going to go ahead and convert date into proper time series data. Now, this is very important. I talked about this in the last video with manipulating data, but when you're working with time series data, you need to get that time series data into a date time format so that you can analyze it as time series data. And Pandas, fortunately, makes that very easy. We can use pd.toDateTime, and that's going to convert a date time string into proper time series format for us automatically. And we can see that this actually happens by once again looking at df info once again, and we'll see that date has now been converted from object to date times 64. And this is exactly what we want. We want to be able to analyze our data as if it's time series data, not as if it's strings if it's time series data. And if we take a look at the data frame, we'll see now that our dates look the exact same, but are something different behind the scenes. And that's going to be what we use throughout the rest of this video, this particular row called date, which is the date of an individual article. Oftentimes when we're analyzing dates or time series data, it's very important to look at things collectively. So in this video, the main thing we're going to be doing is grouping our data, or that date field, into specific groups that are organized by specific dates. Now, if you notice, each of these articles has a date, a year, a month, and a day, which corresponds to when that article was written. If we want to group our data inside of Pandas, we can do that by using the group by method. And we can see here by doing df.groupBy and specifying the column that we want to group, in this case date, and then we go ahead and use .size, we'll be able to group that data and automatically convert it into what we call a series in Pandas. Think of this as a collection of different data frames. Behind the scenes right now, we have essentially a whole bunch of different data frames that are organized by different dates, and they are all collectively organized individually by their sizes. So if we want to see what this looks like, we can go ahead and do one other thing, which is reset our index. Now what this is going to do is it's going to take all these different series in Pandas, bring them back into a single data frame, a new data frame that we're calling articles per day, and we're going to specifically group them, or collectively have them all organized by article count. And I think it's better to see what's going on here if we do this and print it off. And if you see here, we're able to see that we've got a new data frame, which is the date in one field and the article count in another. So essentially what we've done is we've been able to group all of our data sets into individual data sets that are organized around specific dates, and then count those dates with size, organize them by size, and then restructure them into a new data frame. Now, why is all this important? Well, when we're working with time series data, sometimes it's very helpful to get a big picture overview of the data set by seeing the frequency of all the different dates that appear. And if we want to see what has actually happened here behind the scenes, is we've converted this articles per day back into a data frame. Now, this lets us do some fun stuff with it. For example, we can use this info feature once again, the info method, and analyze what's going on. And we'll notice that we've now got date time, which is our date, and our article count, which is an int64. So these are the specific data types that we now have. Now, why is this useful? Well, we can go ahead and isolate all the different years in our data set because we have time series data. And we can do this by accessing the year, because this is time series data, by indexing it with .dt.year. This allows us to grab the specific year of each article count. And then what we're able to do is we're able to count each of those years. And we're able to then see the most common years in our data set. And as you can tell here, we're able to quickly go through and see that we have a fairly equal dispersion of the years in our data set. Now, what does this allow for us to do? Well, it allows for us to go ahead and also take a look at the individual months. And we can do the exact same thing, but instead of isolating with dt.year, we can isolate it at dt.month. This is, again, one of the big powerful things of doing everything with time series data. We can get those lower level values of the date, not just by interrogating as a string, but by interrogating it as time series data. And here we can see the frequency counts of the most common months, January being the most common, and specifically January in 1938. And likewise, we can go ahead and also count up the average number of articles per day across this data set. And as we're able to see that we have an average articles per day of 1495. And so we have roughly 1,500 different articles happening every single day in this data set of about 2.7 million articles. And we can do some other interesting things. We can use nlargest, and we print this off, and we can find the largest day in which articles were written. And in fact, this is in 1939, January 5th. So this allows for us to do a lot of really interesting things, but oftentimes to really see this data from a big picture point of view, it's really useful to be able to visualize it. Now, if you haven't done so already, I encourage you to execute this cell, and this will go ahead and install Matplotlib for you. If you're not familiar with Matplotlib, it essentially allows us to really easily take Pandas data and graph it out. There's a lot of different graphing libraries that you can use in Python, things like Seaborn, Plotly that'll give you much prettier visualizations, but Matplotlib is really going to do the job for us right here, where all we're trying to do is look at the year article counts and print off a very basic bar graph. And we're able to do that with this cell right here, which shows us the article frequency across each year. Now, we can use this to really glean some larger big picture insights that aligns with our quantitative data that we've seen throughout this notebook. I'm going to go ahead and stop right here and let you experiment with this all on your own. And this is going to be the end of this series on cuDF and Python and how we can introduce zero coding changes to our workflow and leverage our Nvidia GPUs to do data analysis. I hope you enjoyed this series. Please stick around on this channel as we explore two other Python packages from cuDF or from Nvidia, and that's cuGraph and cuML, which is going to allow us to do the same things, doing analysis on the GPU, but with ML algorithms that come from things like scikit-learn and graphing algorithms that come from things like NetworkX. Instead of doing these things on our CPU, we can use these packages to easily do all these same tasks and algorithms on our GPU. So stick around for those two series as they come out in the near future, and thank you for listening.